Hello, my name is Carlton Wilkinson, and I am the Associate Publisher of New Music Connoisseur, the online newsletter for new music produced by Composers Concordance. I'm in the recording studio of William Patterson University Music Department in Wayne, New Jersey, talking with percussionist Peter Jarvis. Those of you active in new music will know Peter best as the director and conductor of the New Jersey Percussion Ensemble, a group that regularly receives international accolades. For instance, the group was labeled a national treasure by a critic at the Newark Star-Ledger, and the best percussion group in the world by a leading Dutch newspaper. Peter is also a performer of new music repertoire almost exclusively as a solo performer, as well as a teacher and composer. He has single-handedly expanded the percussion repertoire through the commissioning of dozens, if not hundreds, of new works, along the way providing support and instruction in percussion technique to 3 generations of composers. Stay with us through this conversation and we'll see some clips of Peter in action, as well as hear him describe some of what goes on behind the music. What drew you to percussion in the first place, even before the New Jersey Percussion Ensemble?
Yeah, it was just in school, elementary school, 4th grade band. I just wanted to join the band and I wanted to play the drums. In fact, the first year there were too many, when I was in 4th grade, there were too many people interested in the drums and not enough of some of the other instruments, and they gave me a trombone and tried that for a year and it didn't work out so well, and I don't know what the genesis of my interest for it was, but
Did you come
so it was
from
definitely passionate, and I had my mind and heart set on drums, and finally they let me do that, and I've done it since.
You told me off camera that you joined the New Jersey Percussion Ensemble as a freshman in college. Can you tell that story again? The first piece you did was...
Sure, well luckily the New Jersey Percussion Ensemble, which is in residence at William Patterson, I just came here for music, and a little bit naive, I didn't really even know of the ensemble. This is just where I went to college to study percussion. And luckily, at my freshman year, happened to be the same year that the ensemble was going to premiere Charles Warren's Percussion Symphony, and Charles Warren was conducting it. And as I came in a freshman, the ensemble's a large ensemble, 24 people, so I was short a couple people, and I was fortunate enough to get in it. So one of my very first experiences with percussion ensemble was the Percussion Symphony with Charles Warren conducting, and that I got excited about that. Throughout high school, it was drum set, rock bands, things like that, and had a great time with it, and I still enjoy it, that kind of music, and playing it when I can. But no, I had absolutely no exposure to new music when I came here.
How has the percussion scene changed since you started out? My recollection is that the New Jersey Percussion Ensemble was the only one of its kind, pretty much, when it was started off in the 60s.
Well, one of the things that was unique about the group when it started out, and for a couple decades after, was that the group could play the large pieces because we had a lot of people. I've noticed since then, in the last 10, 15 years or something like that, the interest from composers is to write for smaller groups, largely quartets. I think there's a practical reason for that. There's a lot more of them, so they can get a lot more performances. It's a lot easier for groups to rehearse them because you don't have to find 15 people in a very large room with a whole lot of equipment.
Yeah,
that's one of the principal changes. One of the principal changes is the literature.
Yeah. The days of Les Noces and ionization and ballet mécanique are kind of past.
Yeah,
Is that what you're thinking? Symphony?
I would love to see some more pieces like that come back, but it's been a while.
Genre of percussion music, the literature of percussion music has grown tremendously. The role of the percussion and
Tremendously.
and the opportunities for solo have in part thanks to you and into other percussionists, has grown tremendously. How has that changed your career?
Well, I guess allow me to play whatever I want, whenever I want. So that's you're not relying on being in an ensemble that has to be able to get funding and rehearsal space and equipment and literature and all the things that are associated with that. If you're playing solo literature, you can simply play whenever you want to.
Yeah.
And so that allows you to all sorts of freedom.
And it goes in hand with your commissioning projects, I guess, that the literature is opened up so that you can play whatever you want. You're not restricted to a small body of percussion literature.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's one of the reasons that I like to commission literature, and one of the other reasons is that the literature doesn't go away. Performances come and go, but the literature outlasts all of us. And I feel a certain responsibility to try and help develop that.
Barry Cohen, the publisher of the New Music Connoisseur, once asked why the whole world doesn't know what a great performer you are. And he said you just shrugged and said you didn't care about that.
I can't say I remember that conversation, but I probably have always thought and still think if you take care of the music, eventually it will take care of you. So I've probably spent a little bit less of my time in promoting my career than I have been in actually doing my career. I'm comfortable where I am, but sure, if more people knew what I did, that would be better.
You've premiered hundreds of pieces and commissioned, I don't know how many, dozens or hundreds? What would be the appropriate guess?
I've premiered a real lot of pieces, and a lot of them were written for me. I think I've had more pieces written for me than I've even commissioned, and I've commissioned a lot of them. A lot of pieces.
Yeah.
I don't know the number.
What drives you to explore new territory like that? I mean, there's probably enough for you to play without having to go into new pieces.
Yeah, that's a particular interest of mine. A lot of the literature that exists already, I've played a lot of it. I haven't played a lot of it, and I like it. Students play it. I've been coaching it and involved in it on different levels for years, for decades. There's just a freshness, a new energy, and a new interest in new pieces and trying to help the whole percussion world just move ahead. One of the reasons that I'm doing this drum set collection, there's not that many pieces written for a drum set that are approached as a new music composer would approach it. One of the reasons that I'm doing that now, I've noticed over the last few years, drum set is starting to work its way into the curriculum, but really there wasn't very much literature for it, and I wanted to try and help create some. So now as these students are studying percussion in the universities, they could do it through literature, getting recital type pieces. And this anthology we're putting out, I've got about 15 pieces in it. It'll be composers from around the world, most of them from the United States, but it'll be from around the world, and I think we'll have a real solid body of literature to work with.
Can you talk more about the commissioning project? Because it's more than just the drum set cycle. You've done a couple of that are already published.
Yeah, I did a vibraphone collection of 12 vibraphone pieces that the Composers Guild of New Jersey commissioned for me. We've worked on a timpani anthology, which has 10 pieces in it. Again, it's an international concern. There's composers from Korea, Africa, Colombia, United States. That was commissioned by Calabrese Brothers Music, Chris Calabrese. Very often when you hear recitals, whether it's a undergraduate recital, master's, doctoral recital, whatever, when you hear solo timpani literature, you hear Elliott Carter's pieces, which are wonderful. I've played most of them and just thought it might be time to now have some more. So I think there's now another body of substantial, high quality literature that's out there. Now we're working on the drum set one, and we have a couple more in mind as well. I think we'll do something for multiple percussion. We've been thinking of doing one for solo glockenspiel, which will help get some of these instruments that get out of a traditional role and can be presented as a solo instrument and give the students something to play on their recitals.
Mm-hmm. Is that social aspect important to you, that you have, you have so many friends in new music, and
It's very important. It's very important. Personalities play a huge role in it. It helps. It's not necessary, but it helps to know the composers. When a composer's writing you a piece and they know you and you know them and you know each other's personalities, they're sort of writing for the way they think I'm going to play music, and I'm trying to play the music the way I know from their personalities. The social aspect of it is very important. I mean, most of my friends are musicians and composers.
You said that when you were a kid, your teachers were encouraging you to play everything, and you sort of just kept that up. What do you have are you specifically looking for that when you're commissioning work, to try to get a really diverse style collection?
Yes, on some levels. I mean, each of the anthologies have a wide range of composers with different styles. I know roughly what I'm going to get when I ask a composer for a piece. I know roughly what I'm going to get, and each of these anthologies span, on a high quality level, span various styles, and I enjoy that.
When you performed the Krieger and timpani and tape piece that Krieger wrote for you and I saw it performed in Red Bank, there's a lot of theatricality, and every other time I've seen you perform, there's a lot of theatricality in your movements. Is that something that you're aware of in your playing? Is that something that...
Not while I'm playing. I mean, I've been told that and asked about that many times. It's any choreography that shows up in my playing really is more of a spontaneous thing. I don't deliberately choreograph anything. Now, a couple little things, like an arts piece, I remember as it was a very dramatic last note, and I was playing it in the dark with just a little stand light. And as the piece ended with the thing, I sort of ducked out of the way and got behind the timpani and so that I thought about that a little bit and things like that. But for the most part, any choreography that shows up in a performance of mine is purely spontaneous. Well, part of that approach is because of my mentor, Ray DeRoche. It's amazing how many percussionists have come through his studio. Very few, if any, play the same way. And a lot of that has to do with his teaching style. He didn't encourage people to play like him. As long as you were making music and really getting the job done and making music, he didn't encourage or influence the way you approached. My approach, I guess, just happened to involve some movement. But I was not encouraged or discouraged from that. I think he saw it as just an honest approach to the way I play and let it go at that.
Has that influenced you, the pieces that are written for you? Because I noticed like
Yes, definitely. Because composers have told me, they've said, I know when, I know when you're going to want to do this, and they write music that they feel accommodates the way that I play.
The way that you move.
Yeah. In fact, Art's piece, the one you talked about with that timpani piece.
Yes.
That's a very aggressive piece.
Yeah.
And you really get, and he said, I thought when I was writing it, he's going to want to play loud, he's going to want to play aggressively, and he wrote giving me the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely right. That was, it was perfect for it.
We actually have a film clip of the Delgado piece for percussion and video, Lev, he's playing, which is a special. Can you just talk about that piece?
Yeah, the piece more than the instrument, but Carlos created this instrument called the Lev. It was based a little bit on the theremin, which is why he named it Lev. But in this piece, it involves triggering things and then triggering video images. What he did in this piece, and I think some clips here, but there were lights shining. It was dark, it had to be, so there would be lights shining, and when I would interrupt the flow of the light, that would trigger something. So you'd be playing along and playing on the timpani, and then there would be a few improvised moments and some written moments where I could play up in the air, and by playing up in the air where the lights were shining, every time one of the mallets or my hands interrupted the light flow, something would happen on the video.
How much does this technique of physicality transfer over into your conducting? I know I've seen you conduct, and I've actually followed you in conducting, so I know you're very precise.
I became a percussionist before I became a conductor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I started conducting, I probably started conducting very much the way I was playing. And I think there's a direct correlation.
Has your conducting style changed, do you think, over the years?
Definitely. Definitely. It's changed as my approach to music changes. First of all, I was conducting very, very complicated scores, and I think it took all of my thought to get through that. But now I don't so much think of the person at the xylophone playing the xylophone part. I think of the person at the xylophone and the way their personality is going to bring what they're going to bring to it. So now I'm thinking more about probably, not so much about blending a xylophone, say, with a marimba. I'm thinking more about blending a xylophone played by this person with a marimba played by this person. And so there's, the instruments aren't as important as they used to be to me. I'd much rather have those two people have an exchange with their personalities through those instruments. And I think when I can blend that over the course of an ensemble and through the length of a piece, I think I'd probably get better results now. And I think that's one of the reasons.
One last question. Where do you see new music headed these days? Do you see any particular styles emerging? You seem to have your finger on the pulse of dozens of styles.
It's a little bit difficult to say because the technology changes so quickly. And I see so much of new music being influenced by the tools that are available to the composers. And those tools just change by the day. I think there's a lot more people writing music that didn't study composition. And as the technology changes, of course, then even the composers who have studied composition and are career composers, they're still being influenced and using new technology. So it's very difficult to say without having a sense of where the next new technology is. In a case, for example, with Ron Mazurek's music, because we worked together for so long, the sort of evolution of that from just strictly acoustic music to now, we did a concert at NYU, I guess the year before last. We were playing the music on stage at NYU, and they were dancing on their stage in California, but we were linked up by video with movie screens. So the audience could see the dancers, but they were in California, and the audience in California could see us playing. Who knows what whatever comes up next. Ron was a perfect example of somebody who liked to do interactive music, and that technology became available and he was on it. Mm-hmm. So we immediately did that. If whatever the next thing comes out to be, there'll be a composer who wants to use it, and hopefully I'll be involved in it.
So thank you, Peter, for a lovely interview, and I hope we can do it again real soon.
And thank you, Carlton, for inviting me to be interviewed. I would also like to send my thanks to Barry Cohen and the New Music Connoisseur.